Hey! Today we're going to be making no-bake chocolate peanut butter oatmeal cookies.
And these are Bree's specialty in the Miller household.
Oh yes. The reason we're doing a video on this is because we use the oats that are in the Miller's Grainhouse store. These are all organic and they are the rolled oats. Try it out yourself. So we already have everything kind of portioned out. Since we're making a half batch, the measurements are going to be a little bit different. So don't worry, if you want to make a half batch, it makes plenty still. So either way, you're good. So we start off with a fourth of a cup of unrefined coconut oil, organic. You can get like a big gallon of it from the store. It's pretty awesome.
It's the raw good kind.
The raw
smells
kind.
good.
It smells really good. It's really good for your skin, hair, everything. We like to cook with it because it's awesome. You could also use butter. It tastes just as good either way. We also have 2.5 tablespoons of cocoa powder. You can use raw cacao powder, really any type of cocoa powder. The Special Dark is really good with these, but we just have the normal kind right now. So that's that. We have 1 cup of the raw dehydrated sugarcane crystals that we get from the store as well. And you can just use regular sugar. I don't know why they have the special name of dehydrated sugarcane. It's sugar. So we have just a little bit over a fourth of a cup of almond milk. You can use regular milk as well. So you can make your own almond milk, whatever you prefer. It's just as good. I never can taste the difference between the coconut or the almond milk or the regular milk. So it really just depends on whether you want to have that added dairy or not.
And for this, we have the 1.5 cups of the organic whole rolled oats. And we typically use creamy peanut butter, but we were having a crunchy moment. So we have crunchy peanut butter, and we use more than a 1/3 cup, but use at least a 1/3 cup of peanut butter.
For a half batch.
Yes, for a half batch.
So just keep in mind it's a half batch, because sometimes you get measurements mixed up and you end up putting more of one thing and less of another. And just remember, this recipe right now that we're doing, if you're writing down notes, is half. So we'll have the whole one later, the whole recipe written out later. So to start with, Brittany's probably going to just go ahead and take the oats and put them into the bowl.
The infamous yellow bowl.
And then she's going to take the peanut butter and just put it in there. It's super, super simple.
I take my knife and I slice
it. She slices it. It's actually really good if you want to send some of the oats through the food processor to kind of break them up and make it a little bit more fine. That kind of, for me, I like it because it's less. It's more of a texture thing. It depends on if you like the big oats in your cookies. I don't like big, chunks of oats in my cookies, but today we're just gonna deal with it. So
she's gonna just deal with it.
I'm just gonna deal with it. So that's also a good tip that if you want to make quick oats, all you have to do is take whole rolled oats, put them in the food processor, pulse it for a couple times, and you've got quick oats. And it does actually speed up the cooking time, so it's all good. So a little hint right there. All right, I'm gonna take this, which is the coconut oil, take it on over to the stove and put it on high. So we have the coconut oil melting right now. I like to wait till the oil or butter melts just a little bit before I start adding everything else. While that's melting, you don't have to do this, but what I like to do is put the cocoa powder in with the sugar and kind of mix it around with a fork, because sometimes if you find you put cocoa powder in, it gets like little chunks of cocoa powder and it turns out really weird. So I like to do this, just kind of sift everything together with a fork just to help break up the cocoa powder. If you find that your stove might be getting a little too hot, just turn it down. So right here it's kind of starting to bubble and I don't want it to bubble too much. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add the almond milk. And then the sugar, the cocoa mixture. Just trying to keep everything broken up so you can see it. And just mix it in. Also, another note, you don't want to make it too hot to where when you add the milk, if it's real dairy, you don't want it to scald and curdle, so try not to make it too hot for that purpose as well. It's not necessarily a matter of time for when this starts to boil. You just kind of want to stand near it, stirring it, just because it really depends on the day. It depends on how much you're doing. If you're doing half batch, double batch, regular batch. Like since this was a half batch, it took a lot shorter for it to start boiling. So what you want to do is you're going to stand here and just kind of keep stirring it, keep it moving so nothing burns, but let it boil and let it, basically just let it boil for about a minute. Sometimes I wait that long, sometimes I don't, depends on how patient I am that day. So we're just going to let it boil a little bit and keep stirring it, just to keep anything from burning. Be careful, it's going to be really hot and sometimes it will pop out, so watch out.
Watch out.
Sometimes I like to turn it down if I start noticing it popping a little bit too much. It's really just a personal preference just because I hate when things pop out and burn me. So if you can take it, then you don't have to worry about turning it down, but I just don't like it. So, alrighty. So this is gone for about a minute. We're gonna take it on over here. So now we're just gonna pour the boiling chocolate over the peanut butter and the oats.
And typically when she's doing the boiling of the chocolate, I get the pan ready.
We just have parchment paper on it. Yeah. Usually we use wax paper, but we're out of wax paper right now, so parchment works just as fine.
Yep.
Also, we use about half a teaspoon or 1 teaspoon. I usually eye it with, I just eye it. And it's usually a capful or half a capful. A cap is usually around the teaspoon or half a teaspoon.
This is our own vanilla extract, and if you like this video, we'll show you how to make it.
In the oats.
Yes.
Right. So here's what it looks like right now. You can go ahead and use it kind of liquidy like this. I prefer to have mine like pretty moldable, I should say. So I always tend to add extra oats just to whatever consistency you like. Soaks up all the liquid to where it's a little bit less runny. Get to where each oat is covered. Alright. Just about like so. See how it's a little less runny and it's a little bit more, I don't know. I said moldable, and I don't think that's the correct way to explain it. But you notice the difference. Hopefully.
Pliable?
No, it's not pliable. It's more held
Meaty?
together. It's meatier.
Oatier?
So you're going to take your cookie sheet lined with either wax paper or parchment paper. I've also done aluminum foil before. Really anything that nothing will stick to when it's frozen.
When you're desperate for oatmeal cookies, you'll do anything.
You'll do anything. You'll use like cereal box lining wax paper.
Oh, yes. That's not desperation, that's
Innovation. So
money-saving tips.
it really depends on your preference of cookies. Sometimes I make lots of small ones, or sometimes I make very few big ones, so it really depends on your preference. I never understood why cookie, recipes and stuff would always say, like, use a teaspoon to measure them out, and it's like, no way I'm going to have a teaspoon cookie. So,
tablespoon. 3 tablespoons.
Really go for whatever you want.
Rules in the kitchen are stifling sometimes.
Sometimes you need them. Sometimes you need to break them.
That's what I mean. I said sometimes. Stifling.
So you just keep doing that. It's pretty self-explanatory. So when you're done with measuring everything out or just plopping everything down onto your cookie sheets, you're going to take the entire cookie sheet and put it in the freezer. If you have a stand-up freezer, like the one we have, or the little skinny ones, we found that maybe casserole dish covers, you can also use those instead of cookie sheets. That way they actually like slide into the skinny freezer. We also have one of those big freezers that you open up from the top, one of those big ones, and then we just put them down in there. So whatever you can find to fit them into your freezer, just go for it. And depending on the weather, depending on how big you made your cookies, they'll be done between 10-15 minutes to sometimes half an hour, depending on different types of circumstances. So you can just keep checking them. If they're not firm enough for you, just leave them in for a little bit longer. Or you can just eat them when they're still pretty warm, and they taste just as good.
Once they've been in the freezer for as long as necessary to your desired firmness, then you take them out, and we actually transferred these so that they could fit in our freezer. You take them out and enjoy.
Unfortunately, these are not the healthiest of cookies that you could make, but you do know at least where all of the ingredients came from. You can pronounce all of them. It doesn't have any of that processed stuff. They're all whole foods that someone back in 1850 could still have made. So you could also switch out those healthier alternatives, like we switched out the coconut oil for the butter, and we switched out the almond milk for the regular dairy milk. That kind of just cuts back on the dairy, of the animal products, all that type of stuff. So those are definitely some options. You can also experiment with other things. Maybe experiment with using stevia and less sugar. There are a lot of different things that you can do to kind of tweak them just to see where you can take it. That's always kind of the fun thing to do in the kitchen. So,
and that's how you got to this point. She experimented.
Mm-hmm. So if you would like to share a video response or comment below of if you tried this recipe, if you tweaked this recipe, how you liked it, we'd love to hear from you. Also, you can message us, either message us on YouTube, message us on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, all those little social websites. We'd love to keep in contact, hear questions, hear your stories, hear whatever you have to say to us, any suggestions of new ideas for videos and stuff. We'd really like to hear it.
Yeah.
So feel free to contact us in any which way you prefer.
Yep, we'd love to hear from you.
Oh, yeah. So
peace out.
So that's all we have today, and we'll see you next time.